Hello. Consider this. If you've decided to go out to do some photography, one of the benefits of using a film camera over a digital camera is that it allows you to take your time and you can savor every moment. And what I mean by that is everything here, from the shutter speed to the aperture to the focusing, is all controlled by you. So ultimately the picture that you end up getting is going to be what you wanted the camera to take, and it's a perfect embodiment of your vision of a photograph. Now, this is all very well, but this kind of photography takes a little bit of time. And let's just say there's an event unfolding in front of you and you want to take a picture. Are you going to slowly focus and then wait for the moment to be perfect and then boom, you've got your shot? Well, if you take your time like that, what's going to happen is you may miss the moment. So we're going to have a look at how to combat this problem. Believe it or not, photographers can take a film camera and take a shot and have the photo completely in focus. This is a technique known as hyperfocal distancing. So let's figure out how it works. Now, to set hyperfocal distance, you need a manual focus lens. This is a technique which is used by photographers of old cameras. This is perfect, and the reason why it's perfect is you've got an aperture ring, you've got a focusing ring, and you've got this distancing scale, and this is what you need. Modern lenses like this Micro Four Thirds lens is not appropriate because these are focused by wire, and by turning it, nothing actually happens inside the lens itself, but it gives a signal to your camera to adjust the focusing. This FE lens is exactly the same. This is a Sony E-mount lens, and even though it's made by Zeiss, this is completely focused by wire. So this is totally useless for hyperfocal distancing. However, don't worry, because your camera automatically adjusts depending on what mode you put it on. So this is a Zeiss Luxia. It's actually one of my favorite lenses. And as you can see, it's got everything. You've got manual focusing, you've got an aperture ring, and you've got this thing here, and this is the critical part. And you can see you've got the distance along these two things. You've got two sets of numbers. And as you turn it to this side, you can see you've got meters and you've got feet. So the bottom scale represents the distance in meters, and the top scale represents the distance in feet. These markings represent the aperture that you ought to be on, and the central mark is basically an indication of the focusing point and also the aperture. So right now we're at f2.8 and it's at 0.3 meters. Okay? And if I turn it like this is f11 at 0.3 meters. This is f11 at 0.4 meters. And this is f5.6 at, 1 meter. There we are. So it's nice and easy. You can get a feel of it. Okay. First of all, what you've got to do is you've got to find this infinity mark and line it up to whichever aperture that you've decided to use. So if you want to use f22, you line it up with the f22 on the right-hand side, or the left-hand side, depending on which lens that you're using. In this case, it's going to be the one on the edge over here. Okay? Make sure that your aperture is set to that number as well. So here we've got it to f22. Now, if you have a look on this scale now, everything from here, this point here, so that's around 0.45 meters, so it's just under 0.5 meters, right through to infinity is going to be an acceptable focus. Okay, so that's very useful. If you wanted a slightly different aperture, maybe f22 is too dark, and you're used to using maybe the Sunny 16 rule, you can have it at f16. So I need to adjust the infinity point, so it's now on the edge of that f16 there. And now, as you can see, everything from, okay, so that's just over, it's about 0.7 meters or so. Around 0.7 to infinity everything in that range is going to be in focus. Okay? If you decide to go for instead f8, turn it to f8 on your aperture ring, turn it to f8 over here. Okay, so this infinity mark is in line with that mark there. And everything from just over 2 meters to infinity is going to be in focus. So that's how it works. Okay, let's see how it works for this Pentax lens. Okay, so again, we've got a distance scale here. We've got our aperture indicator thing, our focus watts it over here, and our aperture ring over here. Okay, and again, I'm going to start with f22. I'm going to make sure that infinity mark is directly in line over here. Let's just make sure it's in focus. Directly in line with that f22 mark. I'm going to set it at f22, and now as we can see, everything from about 1.5 meters right through to infinity is going to be in focus. If I wanted to use f16 instead, in fact, no, let's just go with f11. Okay, that's about f11 here. Okay, now f11 is going to be that mark just there. Okay, well, there we are. Now we can see that everything from around 4 meters right through to infinity. So I'm looking at the blue, the yellow markings right there for meters. Or you could say everything from around 11 foot to infinity is going to be in focus. So there we are. If you want to do hyperfocal distancing, make sure you have a beautiful manual camera and enjoy photography. Thank you very much. I'll see you in the next video.